Hi and welcome to a new tutorial, and this will be actually a series of tutorials where we capture a lot of topics regarding texturing and materials. So I prepared a big project for you where I have several stuff in this room, and there we have different challenges in texturing and of course then the shading. Before we start, please don't open up just the scene. The first thing you have to do is you go to File, Set Project, and select the Materials Texturing folder that you got from me, and say Set, and then you open up the scene. Of course, I have it already open. You have this room mat text start here, and open it. I cancel it because I have it already open. It's important that you see, actually, when you zoom out, there is a skydome light around it with an HDR in it. And with this project, so where we have it, with this project, you got a lot of source images. I prepared really a lot of stuff for you that you need in this tutorial, where offer a lot of textures, some fabric stuff, some leather stuff, also different woods, and all of the stuff you will need. And I will explain during the whole series how to use it and to get really good renders and really good texture mapping. Before we start, I just want to introduce actually the term of UV mapping. So what are we doing here? We are trying to achieve that we get an image, any texture, this is called texture, to fit on a 3D model, and of course it should fit in a way that it look good, and that's not naturally the way. So we have to work a little bit that we can place every image that we have on any 3D thing that we have. So when we actually wrap up the 3D model to lay out, you can see it here in the cube, we try to actually unwrap the 3D model. For example, you can imagine when you have a banana or something and you slice it at the length, and then you just fold it up, and that's the thing that we will do with the UV mapping. And we have to use different techniques that it works. Of course, these images are the easy stuff, but we have to do a lot more difficult models here. So we start actually here with, where it is, with the dice, because this is the easiest and simplest, simplest thing that we have. And there we start with, with actually assigning a new material. So I assign new material here, and as always we use AI standard surface. And please make it to a habit that you rename your materials immediately, because in this scene we will have a lot of materials, and you see they are just named here in a numeric way. So at the end we have 100 AI standard surface with a number, so please always rename it immediately. So we have a dice 1, and we add a file here in the color. When you set the project, of course, it jumps immediately into the source images folder, and I have a dice PNG here. You see, it looks a little bit weird, and let's have a look at the UV editor, because that's the thing that we now need the whole time. So what we see here, I just switch off. You can, in the UV editor, you can switch off the image that you see. And of course, I destroyed in the scene a lot of UVs. Maya prepares actually standard UVs, but for you and for the training, I destroyed a lot of them. Not every object is destroyed in the UVs, but most of them. So I have here a camera-based mapping, but of course we have to do a new one. And one of the things that we could do, just for when you don't see the points, press 6 on the keyboard, because between 5 and 6 you can change actually that you see the image. Good. Yeah, here in the image we see we have messed up everything, and the first thing that we test is actually the automatic mapping. The automatic mapping, I selected it in the object mode, and this is mapping actually from 6 sides and tries to get actually the most appropriate thing. It's a cubic mapping actually, and of course you see it does a little bit strange cuts. Actually, this would already work. So when you take, for example, I switch on my image again. For example, I can take now here the UV shell, so that's the part actually, and with the normal shortcuts, so with W, I can change, actually, see it here? I can change here the position and what do I want to see here on my parts here. Of course, maybe you should do it really appropriate. And of course, there's a special sorting, so you know that at the back of the dice here it should always fit to 7. So here I have to change actually, just put it here to the side. Okay, that's the way how you can sort it. But an even more perfect way to do it, and to don't have this ugly edges, there is another way. But for that, I just destroy here my already done sorting. So if you want to do it in that way, it's also fine, but I show you better option. So I take all of the, no, actually UVs here, because I have to uncut everything. And I hope you also have the UV toolkit. It opens up actually immediately. And what I just say is here sew. So everything now is messed up because the parts are sewed together again. And actually I switch here to another workspace because I need the UV editor here anyway on the screen at any time. And I can switch here, for example, to UV editing. That changes here my whole window so that I have the UV editor and here the UV toolkit, so my work is a little bit easier. Of course, I can change here the size a little bit. So, and now we go actually to the edge mode, and I'll show you another cool stuff. You see here there's a point where the lines all go to 1 star actually, and I press Shift on the keyboard and I double click here all the edges. When you press F on the keyboard, you can frame the current selection and it will be easier to select the stuff. So then I need one here and here and another one here. and here. So I think I selected all of them, and what I now do is I go here and say cut, and you get immediately white lines here. There is still a mess, but now we have actually, when you go to UV shell and you select one of the shells, you could also select them here, and then say unfold. Here, unfold. And I do this actually, I just select all of them and say unfold. And now you get here perfectly edged parts. They are all now in a different size, and the positions are a little bit weird. But the UV Toolkit offers also more stuff here. So just switch on the arrange and layout stuff. And what you can do is say layout here. Then everything is put to the same size. And maybe we also say, okay, that no, this wasn't, just say layout, and maybe we orient the shells. Yes. Now we have, actually, it's a little bit more complicated, but in that case, now we have our perfect shell parts, and we can now just move them that a perfect dice comes out. Okay, so, and of course, when I have the number 6 here, check the back side. Is that one? That has to be a number 1. So just go on. And what we should also do is actually, when it's too big for you, or the dice points should be more in the middle. Of course, what you can do is I go to UV and I change to my scale tool and scale this up, and you see with that I can change, of course, size. So when I now put it, of course, now they are cutting actually each other, but it doesn't matter because there's just white space around it. You can even make this a little bit even more bigger or bigger. Well, that's my finished dice. The next thing will be in the book here. And again, assign new material. I'm sorry when you don't see it because my screen recording is cutting here. Standard surface, and you see here this is my UVs, and so material attributes. Again, I load in a file in the color. I prepare the book cover, and you see it's, yeah, it does whatever. And so actually I do the same because I try the automatic mapping. Sorry for beeping, just switch up my phone. So that is the output, and what we got, actually, you see here where Maya cut here the geometry, and what I do, actually I want one cover here, and what I could do, for example, is I select here the edge, and where's my toolkit? Yeah, and say where it is, stitch together. Also a cool tool where it connects, actually moves and sews my UVs, and I do this also here. And as you see, I'm somewhere annoyed by the other stuff that I see here, and maybe I just show you a little trick. For example, show isolate select view selected. Oops, maybe I should not just select, so switch it off again, and maybe I just select the whole book in the object mode and then go to isolate select view selected, or you see you also have a shortcut here. I will use this and maybe sometimes, just that you know. So now I go to the other edge, click on it and say stitch together. And now I have actually one UV shell here, you see it? And when I move it, I can actually reposition my stuff here. You see here I have small other parts here, the inner or the lines here. What I could do maybe just one more time is here that cut, stitch together, and maybe also this one stitch together. But that's the last one I connect, because the other ones I don't care actually, because they will just be orange color. And what I do with here my big UV shell is I unfold it again so everything is perfectly arranged, and I just take all the others and I just scale them down and put them somewhere in the orange part so that they are just perfectly orange. And I take this shell, and of course I have to scale it up and maybe also rotate it a little bit and scale that it perfectly fits here in my view. Maybe I use here orange shells again. Yeah. And let's see what happened. Yeah, not too bad, but actually what we have to adjust is this, that the back of the book is actually wider than my geometry here. So what I could try, now I take my UVs here, select all of them. Of course now I could move them, but everything else is going with it, and I just scale them down. Still, of course now this is stretching up a little bit and I still have to rotate it, so just do this little tweaking stuff. I could also adjust actually the texture itself, that there is more orange here in between. But and what I do is I take just some of the UVs here in the middle, UVs. So let's check. No, way too much. Yeah. Also just scale them and push them to the side, because here it's also it doesn't matter if there's just orange, and so we have actually our book with a cover. And I just switch back here my view to isolate selected, and you see here the pages of the book. There is texture prepared. The book pages, you will try it on your own. For the desk itself and to create the wood, we will actually use similar methods. I just center pivot here, Again, we assign a new material. Where it is. And what did I say about renaming your materials? That's good. And this one, actually, I will book. So, back here. Add a file here. So we have different woods here. Yeah, that's for the floor. I could use this one. I could also, yeah, it depends on you. What do you want to do? Yeah, this is also a floor wood. You can choose, of course, any wood you like. You can get yourself from the internet any other one. So I just take this one, and you see that's my destroyed UVs. And I do the same actually as I did before. I'm just trying the automatic mapping and see what happens. Yeah, not so bad. And of course I can, if you want, maybe sew some edges here. So of course in real life there are some kind of don't know what's the English word for it, but you know what I mean. This part here in front always have plastic or something. So when I just, for example, when I want to sew here, because or here, maybe it depends on you. You could also leave it in that way, but of course when I have to get it here perfectly and switch on here my UV toolkit again and say stitch together, and now it rotated, and when this happens, of course you can, and also the sizing is a little bit different, then select the shell again and say unfold again, and then the size will adjust. And oops, and I take the shell, orient it here perfectly, or maybe orient on edges. Let's see what happens. Oh, there's nothing. Good. We just oriented it, and you see now the texture is here perfectly flowing over the edge. Okay, and here, for example, that shell, which one is this? If you want to float it in a good way, then also maybe stitch together here. I have to do the unfolding again and the rotation. Wrong rotation. So let's try. Yeah, then the orientation works. Of course, you have to. You always have positions where the texture has to be cut, but just think about it where you don't see it or where it doesn't matter. Actually, here I don't see it, and I have a nice surface here. I'm not sure if my wood is actually tileable. Let's try when I take my shells and scale them. Yes, so I can increase, of course, my texture size, or my size of the wood texture here. So yeah, looks nice. And you do the same for all the parts here. Okay, and of course don't create a new material. Always, of course, when you have one time your material, then go to assign existing material, and now I have my perfectly named desk wood, and it looks that it, okay, you have to adjust it here a little bit. You can also select more parts here, and I just have to click a little bit higher so that you see it. Assign existing material, desk wood, and now you adjust the UVs as you learned it here already, and the top part. Okay? So the next step is some parts here of my Coke, and I will label the stuff here, and of course all the materials, the glass, and of course the wood isn't finished already. The AI standard surface is way too glossy, and I adjust this in another tutorial where the topic is actually really the material part. So, but here at the Coke, we select actually just the faces, because it could be an extra geometry, but you can also assign materials just to a special part. So I select the faces, and again, my typical process: assign new material, standard surface, and rename it again Coke label or Coke bottle label, because we have a can label also. Label, and I color it again. So where's my label? Now I have to go outside of the woods. No, yes. Oh, my mouse is a little bit. I think he has a little bit of problem with the name and the connection. Let's try again. Okay, now it worked. Here we go. And of course I destroyed here the UVs also, and you don't see here anything. So what I do is I select the faces again, and now we try different type. We try the cylindrical mapping. Of course, this is obvious. When we have a cylindrical object, then cylindrical mapping could work cool. And yes, so it is perfect as it is assigned here. So of course, when you have the feeling, okay, that's too much or too less stretched, then give it just a little bit more. But yeah, that's it. So the cylindrical mapping you do also here for the can, the labeling, but I just want to show you the cylindrical mapping also here at this object, because actually the way this was the unfold version, but when you assign also a material here, I do it again, so new material, because I want some kind of brushed metal on it. Of course there's a preset, but just want to show you lamp brushed. So I think I have here's brush steel, yeah, and see how it looks like here. Yeah, I have, of course this is going outside and it's not tileable, but I want to show you actually that there is a better way, because the unfolding is not always the perfect way, and I just show you that the cylindrical mapping could be a little bit tricky sometimes, and here it is because the thing isn't perfectly arranged. Okay, it is, yeah, that's the reason why. You see what happens, and you see here it is gray cylindrical form, and the first thing I do is I'm searching for a red T here. Then, and with that I can switch between two kind of stretching and moving, and you see it's just getting a little bit better. No, not better, but it stretches a little bit different and close the cylinder. So, but what I want is with the red T, then I can activate my rotation tool, and that's the important thing. Now I try to rotate my lamp in a way that, no, don't switch to the, I just pressed W on the keyboard. Always use here that one. So I try to position the cylinder actually more or less here in the middle, so that the cylinder around is wrapping in a cool way and in a good way, and that I have here. I try, you see it now, it's getting a lot better, but this might be a little bit tricky to get it more or less straight. And the better, of course, the rotation is here angled, you see. Yeah, I'm nearly happy. Because it's more or less straight, and I have one skew here, but I don't want to see the skew here on this side, so I just rotate it where I don't see it, here somewhere on the down, or even more. So in the rendering, always position your skews somewhere where you don't see them. So of course I could do even a little bit more adjusting. Yeah, but I'm not, yeah. Nearly straight, and here the skew, I don't care. And now when I have a look at it, I have now perfect lines here. Of course I can stretch them maybe a little bit more. Yeah. Not too much, because now the tile here is actually repeating here, and when I scale it too much, so I should actually use brushed metal texture, which is tileable. So that's the result you should end up with. I'm just saving the scene here. When I take the UV shell and open up my toolkit again, when I would try the unfold now, I think then maybe we can say straighten UVs. I'm just showing you different things that you could use to, let's see what happens. Nothing, more or less. Straighten shell. Now, when I do the unfold, no, then it would go back and it's stretching here. Of course, this isn't bad, yeah, but in this case, the option with the cylindrical mapping, I'm more happy. So just undo that. I'm more happy with that version. Okay. Let's continue with another kind of mapping that I use quite often, and for that we will do the cap. Again, assign a new material, and there is that one. So, and of course we have to do here a mapping, and the easiest way is actually that we do a camera-based one. For that we will switch here to the top view, because the camera-based mapping is actually doing a planar mapping from the position where you are looking at it. And for that I just, so I'm here in my top view, go to UV camera based, and you see it looks quite good already, but when we have a closer look, and we may switch on here the checker map, and then we see that actually with the checker we'll see it much better, that it is stretching here a lot of. And for that, our well-known unfold option will work here quite well, so everything fits here perfectly. And well, that's it. So my cap is actually finished. What I can do is, if you want to scale it maybe a little bit so that the red cap is more in the middle, don't do it too much, because you see it's coming, the tiles are actually coming in again. Oh, still too much. So that's the maximum that you could scale it here. Good. And also, for example, a nice thing where we can do this is, for example, with the picture here. We have here the frame, the passepartout, and the image itself. And for that, I also try to, you can do any image you like, of course. And where's my material? So here we go. And I think we have here somewhere Starry Night. And it doesn't fit, of course. So we will switch here to the front view. Or here it is the back, so it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that I have a perfectly orthographic straight view. And say again, yeah, camera based. Let's see, yeah, what happened. Cool. Actually, I don't have to do anything more, because maybe I'll scale here my image actually a little bit, that I see more of it. I'm not sure if it is now stretched too much or too less or whatever, or the direction maybe should be another one. So I just rotate it here 180 degrees. Oops, I wanted to. So that is actually the main basic stuff that you need to know for texturing. And the more complex things, like for example here the chair, or even more complex, that one we will now do in the next tutorial.